I'm so excited about this series and this book that I've had the privilege to work on. And the title of my message today is How to Turn Your Vision into a Breakthrough Plan. How to turn your vision into a breakthrough plan. When I was in college, I had a roommate that I really liked, which is why I asked him to be my roommate. Who's ever had a friend that you really liked, and then you became a roommate with that person, and then you still kind of liked them, but it was like a little less? Who's ever been there? And so that was like me and my friend, and so he was my roommate. Come on, somebody. And he was a great guy, and I would describe him as a dreamer. Someone say dreamer. Who's ever met a dreamer? Some people are just dreamers, right? They have the biggest dreams. And so he was one of those people, and so he was the biggest dreamer I had ever encountered, which is saying a lot, because I've met a lot of dreamers in my life. And so, and he was like a true dreamer. He was one of those vision board people, right? Like before vision boards got cool. Like he was like the OG millennial vision board guy. And so he when we first started living together, I remember he created a vision board that was huge, and then he did like daily affirmations, like every morning. You know, I was waking up, you're 20 in college, and he was affirming. I was waking up, and he was affirming, and he also was an actor. He introduced himself as an actor, which I thought was kind of weird because you're in college, and that was his thing, and he was always dreaming about the biggest things he was going to do. I remember one time I came into our room and he was crying, which was super weird because we were both dudes. And I was like, what happened, bro? Did like someone break up with you? And he goes, no. In my affirmation time, true story, he goes, I was envisioning myself winning an Oscar. It's a true story. I'm not making this up. He goes, and I felt like God was just telling me, you're going to win the Oscar. And so he was like a dreamer, right? And so I lived with him for a year, and I had never met anybody who had more vision, more dream, more ambition than him. The problem was that it kind of just ended at the dreamer stage. So for instance, he was an actor, but he never went to an acting class. He wasn't even in drama. I think he was studying economics, which was even weirder. Or for instance, have you ever met someone who's a dreamer and they have these big dreams, but they're not necessarily doing anything about it? Have you ever seen that? Maybe their dream is that they want to build a big business, but they're not in that business, right? Or their dream is to have, I've met guys their dream is to have an amazing wife. They're always talking about the girl they're going to end up with. But then it's like, bro, maybe a shower would not be the worst thing in the world. Start small. Maybe get a number. How about that? Let's take this vision down a little bit. And so part of the problem with dreams is, I like to call it the dreamer's dilemma, is that anybody can have a dream. Right? And so every person in this room, including myself, all have dreams. And so the way I think dreams work is a dream is something that could happen. And so that's why dreams are so easy to have, because lots of things could happen. And so that's why when you talk to someone and you ask them about their dreams, usually it's something that I dream of starting a business. I dream of being a millionaire. I dream of living in Corona del Mar. I dream of going to Hawaii. The thing about dreams is that a dream is it's an image of the future that could happen. And so what often happens is, if something could happen, we end up waiting for it to happen. Does that make sense? Think about that. So many dreamers, you'll notice this, is that they have a big, amazing image of their potential future. But they're always waiting for life to give them the dream. And so they're waiting for that person in their life. Or they're waiting for that person to hire them. Or they're waiting for God to do something. And so they spend all their time on waiting because their strategy is a waiting strategy. It's that I have an image in my mind of what I would love to happen, but my strategy is I'm going to wait for it, that it might happen. Does that make sense? And so that's why so often you meet people and they're like, they get stuck in the same position. It's because they have like a bad strategy. So like recently I went back to Oklahoma and I met a lot of the kids that I went to school with, right, a long time ago. And so like half of them were like still having the same conversations. Have you ever seen that? It was like that guy, I remember, had that big dream of building this and building that, and he was like the guy, and he's like living across the street from the school, like he's working in the admin department. Like no beef on people working in the admin department, but like that, his dream was big, and then he's still in the same place, still dreaming. And so the reason for that is that a dream is an image of the future that could happen. Therefore, we often wait for it to happen. Does that make sense? And so the difference between a dream and a vision is a plan. A dreamer waits. A visionary, what they do is they have a plan in motion. I love visionaries because visionaries are like a 1/3 dreamer. They have big dreams, but they're busy making it happen. And so you can see a difference. You meet somebody, it could happen. If you meet a dreamer, they're always talking about something happening in the future, maybe. You meet a visionary, they're always working on their vision. Does that make sense? So for a dreamer, the image of the future could happen. For a visionary, the picture of their future that they're serving will happen. And they already got a plan in motion. And so the key for 2024 is, how do you go from having a dream to being a visionary? How do you go from, this is the image of my life, this is my ideal life, this is what I want for my family, this is what I want for my kids, this is what I want for my health, this is what I want for me, this is what I want for my spiritual life, this is what I want in terms of my own personal growth. The way that you transition from being a dreamer to being a visionary is having a plan. One of the things I love about visionaries is that they don't expect anything to be given to them. Like if you get around a dreamer, they're always kind of waiting. Have you ever noticed? They're like waiting. God's going to do it. This is going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to break. That's like a dreamer mindset. A visionary, they don't think they're going to probably get any help. So they're like working on their vision. They're saying, God is behind me. God is with me. But I am working my plan. I am working the vision God has given me. Another way of saying it is that a visionary sees themselves as the agent of change. They're not waiting, they're doing. They're not expecting, they're making. And so to be a visionary is someone who has a plan. Proverbs 21:5, I love this. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. So what does diligent mean, Pastor Stefan? Diligent means to stick with it. And so what Proverbs is saying is that when you have a vision for your year, but you're willing to put that vision into writing, and then you're willing to translate that vision into a plan, and then you're willing to diligently work that plan, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't work all the time, even when it's slow to progress. If you can keep diligent, those who are diligent will prosper. They'll receive profit. Those who are hasty leads to poverty. Remember last week, I talked about the fact that so often when we look at people that have experienced breakthrough in their life, often all we see is the moment of breakthrough. We see the breakthrough moment. So we see the moment the actor got the big Marvel contract and became Iron Man. Or we see the guy who was the business guy who came out of nowhere and then built the big business. We only see the breakthrough moment. So what happens is that we run around without even knowing it with a Hail Mary strategy. I love football. And so football, there's this, at the end of every game, the team that's falling behind, usually there's only a few seconds on the clock, they'll always do what you call a Hail Mary. It's like a last-minute ditch effort, probably not going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. Extreme, crazy, long play. Like most plays are like 5 yards, 7 yards. A Hail Mary is like 60 yards. Like you're going for gold, so to speak. And so often what happens is we'll see people that it will experience big breakthrough, and we'll only see that big breakthrough moment. So then we believe that breakthroughs come through big breakthrough moments. And so what that translates into is our plan becomes like a Hail Mary pass. And so that's why during the first of the year, a lot of folks, they put up these amazing resolutions for the year. The first thing they do, Hail Mary pass. I want to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to fast for 30 days. Right? I want to make more money. I'm going to make 1,000 sales calls. I don't even know the people I'm going to call, but I'm going to find the numbers and make 1,000 calls. You watch, Mom. I'm going to make it. Who's ever been there before? And so what happens is that we take extreme actions, believing that extreme actions will produce incredible results. But Scripture is clear on this. Proverb is clear. The plans of the diligent is what leads to profit. And surely as haste leads to poverty. I love the word surely. I love Proverbs. The writer is almost acting like you should know better. Surely going on a 30-day fast is not going to get you to your goal weight. Bad strategy. Great for football games, terrible at planning your life. Surely it's going to take some time. Surely that the one who has the plan, surely the one who is diligent, surely the one who keeps showing up, surely the one that, one of the coolest things being a pastor is seeing people grow. I get the privilege every week to see people experience breakthroughs. It's the coolest job ever. Because before I became a pastor, I'd go to church and I would see one guy on stage. And so I thought, in my little naive 20-some-odd-year-old mind, that was like the job. Like to be a pastor was like to be the guy on stage. But then once you're actually on stage, all you do is spend time looking at hundreds of other people, like I am doing now. Like I'm not watching myself on stage. I'm looking at people that I know and work with and love. And what you end up doing is you end up spending all your time seeing breakthrough. All you're doing is watching people grow, watching people turn into leaders, watching people experience breakthroughs in their families, watching people get healed. It's hard to be cynical when you're a pastor because all you're doing is spending time watching everybody and God moving in their lives. Isn't that cool? And so one of the things that you learn as a pastor is the value of diligent plans. It's really incredible because you'll see somebody, like for instance, you'll see a young person who'll come in and they will go to church every Sunday for like a year, join a fellowship group, serve on a team, and by the end of that year, they have dramatically increased their faith, their confidence, their knowledge in God, their knowledge of who they are. Like you can literally see the trajectory. And then you'll meet someone who comes in like once a year, and they're the same age and they're like in the same position. And so one young person is like growing in leadership. You just look at him, you go, that guy's going to be fine. Like he's 25 now. At 30, if he continues on this trajectory, he'll be able to lead any team. He'll be able to bring any value. He'll be able to solve any problem. And then you see other young folks that I think struggle with the idea of diligent plans. And then it's like they just float. Have you ever seen that? It's like, it's this Proverbs, this haste leads to poverty. And so it's like they're always going to one more conference, they're always going to one more church, they're always going to one more event, never actually planting themselves, never actually being diligent, never actually taking their big dream and putting it into a commitment where they say, this is my church, I am going to grow, I'm going to make this a priority, I'm going to spend time with God, I'm going to learn the ways of God, I'm going to be a force for God's goodness in the world. And so point number 2, big breakthroughs come from diligent plans. Proverbs 28:19. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies will have their fill of poverty. One of my favorite stories when I was a kid is the story of the turtle and the rabbit. And so the turtle and the rabbit are in a race. And so the turtle is going slow, as turtles go. And the rabbit is going fast. But in the story, what the rabbit does is he goes so fast that he gets sidetracked. And so he spends most of the story interacting with other characters. So he meets a squirrel, they go off and do something crazy. He meets a raccoon, starts a relationship, doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Finds some nuts, starts a small business. And then the end of the story is an amazing story, is that he wakes up and realizes that the turtle is right about to cross the finish line. And he has been so busy chasing fantasies that he ends up losing a race that he should have won. One of the most important things that you can do this year is be diligent to your plan. If you could just do one thing, maybe your goal this year is to know God better. Maybe that's it. You want to hear his voice better. You want to grow spiritually. You want to be transformed more by him. Who in this room would say that that is like a goal this year, to know God better? If you picked a time in your week, Sundays, to spend time with him and get into his word, just the decision to be diligent will produce an incredible breakthrough by the end of the year. It's amazing that big breakthroughs happen from diligent plans. I love this, Jesus, whenever he's working with his disciples, Jesus is like a diligent plan leader. One of the things he's always trying to do is he's trying to get us to see the value of what it means to follow him daily. You don't have to be an amazing leader. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to follow me daily. You don't have to know how to pray like Oral Roberts or T.D. Jakes or Joyce Myers. You just have to be willing to pray daily. You don't have to know my word like N.T. Wright or Jürgen Moltmann or Hans Urs von Balthasar, like the famous theologians of the last few hundred years. All you need to do is just spend time in my word daily. Big breakthroughs happen because of diligent plans. And so that's the secret that the visionary knows. And that's why a faithful visionary will always beat a big dreamer. Because a big dreamer might have the biggest dream, but a visionary stays diligent to the plan. And so that's the biggest difference between a dreamer and a visionary, is that a dreamer can just dream a dream and walk away. A visionary sees the future that God has given them, assesses who they are in light of that goal, and then begins to work their plan. They begin to say, God, I'm committing. I'm going to spend time in your word. I'm going to spend time in your... I'm telling you, when you meet people of amazing faith, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Or when you meet incredible pastors or incredible worship leaders, almost always they are diligent in the area of spending time with God. You know, we don't think about this. When Paul was saved on the road to Damascus, the time between his meeting Jesus on the road and the time that he starts his first missionary journey is, guess how long? 10 years. In the New Testament, it's just a chapter. So like when we read it, we go, yeah, Paul, amazing conversion event, meets Jesus, right? Gets called by the disciples. He's saving the world. He took 10 years to spend time with God before God put him in a position where he was ready. What am I trying to tell you? What are you trying to tell me about, Stefan? I'm trying to say is that big breakthroughs, that big breakthrough that you want in your life begins with a diligent plan. When you can turn your vision into a plan and then begin to be diligent at it, even in a really small way, God will use that to do amazing things. And if you choose that strategy, like the turtle, you will always beat the rabbit. Come on, somebody. Let's give the Lord a clap. Who has 10 minutes left in him? 3 steps to building your breakthrough plan. I love this. So every great plan is made up of a few key components. The first one is, number 1, great plans always assess your starting position. There's an amazing scripture in the Bible, Luke 14:28-30. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. I love Jesus. Again, when he's always talking, he always says things like, surely. Won't you, he goes, wouldn't you, like again, he's assuming, first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. I think part of the reason why so many people fail in resolutions or why they never see their vision come to pass is because they don't take seriously their starting position. They're not able to take inventory and be honest about where they currently are. I was talking to Tim one time, and I had a friend who really wanted to meet with my Uncle Tim for life coaching, and so I made it happen. Don't do that anymore because it didn't work out. But at that time, I did. It was when I was younger, and Tim called me. He goes, "Hey, met with your buddy." He goes, "Little weird." I asked him what his plan was, and then he told me he didn't want to focus on that. He just wanted to focus on his vision. And I'll never forget that because so often we get so excited about the vision. We start off in a positive place, right? This year I want to do this. God is calling me to do this. Our family's going to do this. My finances are going to do this. But we get so excited about the big picture vision that we forget to take seriously our starting position. And so often plans fail because we're not even able to take proper inventory of, for instance, what we're making now. I want to experience financial breakthrough in my life. Great. So how much do you owe in credit cards? Where is your starting position? Where is your current inventory of where you are? And the reason why that's so important is that it doesn't matter how small what you're starting with is. The reason why you want to take an assessment of where you're at is because you want to be able to rack up a win quickly. You want to be able to actually make progress. Because why have a vision if you're not interested in making progress? And so when you start with assessing your position, it's asking yourself, do we have the time? Do we know how? That's the benefits of assessment, because a visionary can always see reality. When you practice understanding where you are, taking inventory of yourself, you're giving yourself an incredible gift in your toolbox to be able to see reality clearly. Just being able to see reality, your situation, on its own, research shows has a huge impact on outcomes. Isn't that interesting? Just knowing where you're at. There's a concept in psychology where it's called learned helplessness. And so one of the core ideas in learned helplessness is that when an individual who's experiencing a tough situation, they are more likely to endure the situation if they believe it's temporary. And so there's some positive things to that, because whenever you're in a tough season, you should believe it's temporary. That's super important, because a lot of people, what they do is they get stuck, is that they go through like a bad situation and then they project what they experience onto the future. An example of this might be you had a tough relationship, maybe a tough first marriage, so now you automatically assume that every marriage going forward will be just as tough. And so what happens is you're single and suitors will come, and then you shut that down. So that's called learned helplessness. You experience something in your past that limits your potential in the future. And that's a real thing. And so what they have found is that they'll take folks that have, for instance, lost their job or have gone through a difficult financial season, and then they'll give them the job interview. Like they'll have a team work with them to actually help them break out, and then they don't show up for the job interview. Or they don't do the work, or they don't take the opportunity, and then you ask them why, and it's like the opportunity just went over their head. They think that, oh, I'm not going to get that job anyway. And so it's called learned helplessness. And so when we go through something traumatic or tough, what we do is we project the lessons of the past onto the future as a way to protect ourselves from going through something tough again. And so we get the trade of protection. We're not let down again, but we pay for it through missed opportunity. And so it's a question of, is that the trade you really want to make? Are you willing to protect yourself from a potential threat by also sacrificing your very happiness? Isn't that interesting? It's called learned helplessness. And so often, what happens is that folks that are trying to experience breakthrough in their life, what they'll do is they'll assume that the future will be the same as the past. One of the ways you break that is through assessing your present. Because you go into your future not assuming you know what will happen. Does that make sense? So it's like, I didn't get that job, or I've been struggling to get jobs. Okay, let's assess. What gifts do you have? What does your resume look like? What are you good at? What do you not know? Maybe you just don't have a strategy for getting hired. Maybe no one taught you how to go in and sell yourself to an employer. Often, when you are willing and brave enough to assess your current position, you will usually find your answer to how you need to move forward. And so a great plan always starts with taking inventory. If you can have the courage to look at reality, take inventory, what you're actually doing is you're learning how to see the path clearly, how to see reality clearly. And so a person who can see reality clearly will always beat someone who sees reality foggy. Have you ever tried to talk to someone or help somebody or support them, and it's like they're not living in reality? It's like their dream is disconnected. It's almost like a delusion. Yeah. So the difference between a delusion and a vision is being able to see reality. And so if you meet somebody and they have this amazing vision of the future and it is not connected to reality, that would be a delusion. If you see somebody who has an incredible vision for the future, who's taking seriously what they have to learn and what they have to do and how they have to grow, that's a visionary. And so a visionary who can see reality clearly will always win over someone who can't. And so number 2, great plans. The first one was great plans, assess your starting position. Number 2, great plans are always challenging, but also realistic. I love Proverbs 28. For those who work their land will have abundant food, and those who chase fantasies will have the fill of poverty. And so there's something, I think another reason why so many people fail with their visions or mission statements every year is that they're shooting for something that is not realistic or challenging. And so one of the things that while I was doing research for this book, I found this really fascinating, that when people experience anxiety, and one of the treatments for anxiety is exposure therapy. And so the idea is that usually someone has a fear or something that is, to use it, I like this word, a dragon. So they have like a dragon in their life, but the dragon is so big that it's terrifying. And so the mountain is so large that they don't see a way over it. And so that leaves them with gripping anxiety. And so what a psychologist will do is they'll shrink their dragon down to size, and then they'll increase your courage to fight that dragon. And so that's basically what that is that's the combination of great plans should be challenging, but they should be realistic. Whatever your goal is for this year, it should be challenging. It should challenge you. It should make you step out of your comfort zone. It should make you have to learn. It should make you have to think in a different way. It should stretch you in some way, but it also should be realistic. It should be something that you could achieve, that you actually could handle, that you could actually see yourself doing and making it work. And then number 3, and that the worship team can come up, great plans always start small. Zechariah 4:10. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb in line. I love this. Do not despise small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. So often in life, big breakthroughs seem like they happen all at once. Sometimes even when we're going through them, we feel that way, right? It's like you were working for 4 months on that diet, and you lost like 1 pound a month. Who's ever been there? And then like month 4, you lost 10. Or for instance, maybe it's in your job, you struggle for 3 months to try to find clients and expand their network, and then in 1 month, you get like everyone signs up. And so what is actually interesting is that what creates big breakthroughs is an accumulation of those small wins that you had. And so the progress in the beginning of whatever your plan is always going to be the slowest. I like to say it like this: your first $1,000 is always the hardest. Your first 1,000 to save, 1,000 to make, 1,000 to put together is always the hardest. The next 1,000 is half as hard. It's called the Pareto distribution. And so every great plan starts small. And that's okay. That's the journey. I think so many of us, we have visions for a year. I guarantee every person in this room has a vision. But maybe the area that you feel like you know God wants to transform, you're starting from 0. So it feels overwhelming. Who's ever felt that way? And I believe God is telling you something today. I think He's telling you 2 things. It's okay to start with little. That's okay. That vision I'm giving you, you're looking at it and you're saying, God, I'm not that guy. I'm not that woman. I'm not that mom. I'm not that business person. I don't know. He's saying start small. All I need you to do is get in on the game. All I need you to do is be diligent in your plans. If you can just commit and begin to change the way you see yourself. I'm not a dreamer. I'm a visionary. I don't just have dreams. I work toward my vision. I'm not stuck just because I don't see progress. I'm actually building the fundamentals that are going to be my foundation for the big break. And so if this year you make that commitment, I said this last week, I believe that the vision you have in your life for your life this year, I believe that's a God vision. God has plans to prosper you, to heal you, to restore you. He put things in you that you don't even know that you have. And He wants you to see what is inside of you come out this year. And so He's saying, I don't need your perfection. I don't need your big breakthrough. I don't even need your extreme commitment. What I need is for you to be a visionary. Write the vision, make it clear, create a plan, and be diligent. And I promise you, if you are diligent this year, I say it in my book, I say, what is the one thing you can do over the next 30 days that would have the biggest ROI, bang for your buck, in your vision area? Like, we all know what to do, right? I met with my trainer recently. We're going through my goals for this year. I have like a list of like 8 things I got to do on a weekly basis, right, to be healthy. I'm not doing 8. My gosh, what am I? That's a lot of work. So I said, look, I'm going to start with 2. I'm going to have a shake every day, and then I'm going to fast on Thursdays. And then on February, we'll revisit the water thing, where I got to drink all this water. I'm pretty sure the shakes every day are going to mean more to my health than an extra 30 ounces. Come on, somebody. So we all have. Sometimes I feel like trainers are just making stuff up. Do you ever feel that way? Like making stuff up. Show me the evidence. Give me the study that shows I'm going to live longer if I drink 1 more glass of water a day. I'll do it if you show it to me, but I don't think it exists. I think you're full of it. I just think you made this up to sound like you knew what you were talking about. And you read it on a blog somewhere. Yeah. Pray for my trainer. She's got to deal with me. Anyway, let's all stand today. Who learned something? Yeah. I'm going to prophesy over you as your pastor. God is fixing to do something big in your life this year. This year is going to be your breakthrough year. I believe it's going to be the year you're going to look back in 2030 and you're going to say, when did it all change for me? It was 2024. It was when I went from chasing fantasies to being diligent in my relationship with God. It was when I went to doing everything everywhere to, you know what, I'm just going to focus on the fundamentals. And so let's just pray. If you could, if everyone could just pray with me. And I also want to extend this invitation. One, I want to extend this. If you're a person that came today and you're saying, Pastor Stefan, I want in on this. I saw what happened with Pastor Page. I saw people get healed. I want to experience this house of freedom thing. I want to experience this breakthrough thing. I want to experience this purpose and influence thing. And I want to encounter Jesus, or I want to recommit my life to Jesus. Then I would encourage you, pray this commitment of prayer. We pray this every Sunday because we're a commitment church. We are committed to God and everything that He is doing in our lives. So I would encourage you to just make that commitment and then pray with us today. And so if everyone could pray with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving me life. Thank you for sending your Son to change my life. Jesus, be Jesus in my life in a new and special way. Today, I say yes to your invitation of living a breakthrough life in you, Jesus. And everybody said, amen. Let's give the Lord a clap this morning. And then, we have, what time is it? Does anyone have a phone? 11:38. Okay, we're running over. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to dismiss the service right now because we're over. And then Callie and the team, if you still want to do your song, if you want to stay for a minute, you can, but I'm dismiss you. Have an amazing breakthrough week, you guys. God is with you. He is in you. God bless you. We'll see you next week.